Let's say that you are not just an ACT user, but you are actually in charge of the database as a whole. Well, that's quite a responsibility. You're in charge of keeping track of people's resources. Maybe you're in charge of the database for somebody else, or maybe you're just in charge of your own database for your own company. Well, in either case, you need to know how to maintain the database so that it gives you the most productivity and gives your company the most productivity and adds to the bottom line. So when we talk about the basics of database maintenance, it's not really just tasks. It's really tasks that have a purpose. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is how we back up the system. And we're not going to get into the details now. We're going to do an overview of what we're going to be talking about. But if we click on File and then on Backup, if I position my mouse pointer over Backup, you can see that we have the capability to back up the database itself, but ACT also has built into it a backup utility to back up personal files that are attached to ACT. So that's why it's so important to get used to using ACT on a day-to-day basis so that you have those types of things attached. Then the information that is backed up can easily be restored by clicking on Restore, by going into the Restore section. So we'll discuss how this is done. Another thing that you might be in charge of doing if you're managing a database for other users is you may be in charge of having multiple users on one computer, in which case you would click on Tools and then on Manage Users. When you click on Manage Users, it takes you into the Manage Users tools so that we can create a new user, edit user information, delete users. There's a lot that we can do through these tools, and we're going to discuss more about how we do that. We also need to be able to set the database up so that it can be used by multiple users, maybe even through the network, and we'll discuss that. And then finally, you may want to be able to clean up the database. You may want to scan for duplicates. You may want to be able to clean it up so that it makes a person more efficient. So it's important to understand all of these tasks, but it's important to understand that they're not just tasks. They are very important to make sure that the data that is in fact part of the bottom line of the organization stays intact. Because if people are relying on that, if they're relying on it both for the data as far as the information, for information about prospects and information about customers, that's important, but it's also important if they're relying on it for their calendars. So as you can see, database administration is more than just a task that somebody has to do. It's an important job. And so we're going to spend some time discussing database administration, and we'll start off with defining users. That's next.